The most powerful people don't dominate through force. They don't argue, they don't demand. They control everything without speaking a word. Because real power isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need validation. It simply exists. Silence is control. The less you say, the more others fill in the blanks. The more unpredictable you are, the more they fear making the wrong move. The strongest leaders, the most dangerous manipulators, they don't command with words. They make you want to follow. They make you fear losing their approval. They create an atmosphere of authority without ever raising their voice. And the moment you understand this, you stop wasting energy trying to convince people. You stop explaining yourself. You stop reacting. Because when you stay silent, they do the thinking for you. There was once a strategist, someone who controlled an entire organization without ever needing to give direct orders. He never raised his voice. He never had to justify himself. But every decision made was his decision. People feared disappointing him without him ever expressing disappointment. They sought his approval without him ever asking for it. They followed his lead without him needing to tell them where to go. This is the power of silent control. In this video, we'll break down the dark psychology behind silent manipulation and how to control the game without speaking. The psychology of silence, why words are overrated. Power isn't about how much you say, it's about how much others need to hear from you. The most dominant people in any room don't waste words. They don't fill silences with nervous chatter. They don't explain, justify, or overshare. They make others do the talking. Because the moment you stop giving people what they expect, they start adjusting their behavior to fit your silence. The authority of silence. People fear a lack of response. When someone speaks to you and you don't react, they start questioning themselves. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? What are they thinking? And before they realize it, they're the ones seeking validation. Not because you force them to, but because silence is uncomfortable and people will do anything to break it. People fear the unknown. When someone talks too much, you can predict them, you can read them, you can prepare for them, but when someone is quiet, they become a mystery. And mystery makes people nervous, because what you don't know, you can't control. A boss who barely speaks, but watches everything. A rival who never responds to provocation. A negotiator who pauses before answering. They make you second-guess yourself. And that self-doubt, that hesitation, that's how you gain control. Silence creates psychological pressure. When you refuse to react, the other person starts projecting their own fears. They fill in the blanks with their own insecurities. A CEO walks into a meeting. He listens. He watches. He barely speaks. Everyone in the room starts adjusting, speaking more carefully, rewording their ideas, seeking approval before making a move, not because he told them to, but because his silence commands more than words ever could. That's the power of restraint. When you remove the need to constantly respond, you force others to respond to you. But silence alone isn't enough. You need to pair it with the right nonverbal tactics. Nonverbal manipulation, controlling without speaking. Powerful communication isn't about words, it's about presence. A single pause can create more impact than 1,000 words. A single look can make someone second-guess themselves. A single absence can make your presence feel irreplaceable. When you understand how to manipulate without speaking, you control without resistance. The power of delayed responses. When people ask a question, they expect an answer. Immediately. They want reassurance. They want confirmation. They want to know where they stand. But when you pause, when you make them wait, it shifts the power dynamic. Because suddenly, they're the ones seeking your response. The longer they wait, the more weight your answer holds. The more pressure they feel, the more they start adjusting their own behavior just to earn your attention. A leader who speaks too quickly seems desperate. A leader who takes their time seems in control. Eye contact domination. Most people break eye contact when they feel uncomfortable. They look away when they're nervous. They glance down when they feel intimidated. They avoid looking directly at someone they can't control. But those who hold eye contact own the room, not aggressively, not in a way that seems confrontational, but with presence. Looking at someone without saying a word makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to speak more, to justify, to explain themselves. And when they start explaining, they reveal their weaknesses. Because the more someone talks, the more predictable they become. The more predictable they become, the easier they are to control. Strategic absence. Nothing makes people crave you more than taking yourself away. When you're always available, your presence is expected. When you suddenly disappear, your presence becomes valuable. The moment you walk away, people start noticing. They start wondering. They start chasing. Because people don't fear losing what's always there. They fear losing what they can't replace. A political strategist once controlled an entire administration without ever being in the spotlight. He didn't demand attention. He didn't force authority. He simply removed himself at the right moments. And every time he stepped away, the leaders came looking for him. Silence. Absence. Presence. Master these, and you don't just control people, they control themselves for you. Now let's take this further by making them want to follow you. The art of making people chase you. Powerful people don't chase. They don't beg for attention. They don't compete for validation. Instead, they create scarcity. They create doubt. They make people feel like they're losing them. And when someone feels like they're losing you, they start chasing without even realizing it. The scarcity principle. What's always available is taken for granted. What's rare is valued. This is why people obsess over exclusivity. It's why luxury brands limit supply. It's why people only start missing someone after they're gone. Because the moment you reduce your presence, your value increases. The less you text, the more they wait. The less you explain, the more they wonder. The less you engage, the more they need your attention. Your absence makes them realize something they never noticed before. They don't have as much control over you as they thought. Controlled indifference. Most people react instantly. Someone ignores them, they double text. Someone insults them, they defend themselves. Someone pulls away, they chase. But when you don't react, it drives them insane. They expect a response. They're waiting for confirmation. But you give them nothing. And the longer they wait, the more desperate they become. Because uncertainty breeds anxiety, and anxiety makes people act irrationally. They start reaching out just to see if you'll respond. They start testing you, trying to provoke a reaction. They start looking for any sign that you still care. And the irony? The moment they try to regain control, they're the ones who lose it. Letting silence create doubt. When you don't confirm or deny something, people fill in the blanks themselves. And their own imagination? It's far worse than anything you could say. You don't tell them you're moving on. You don't tell them you're over it. You don't tell them you're done. You just disappear. And now they start wondering. They start assuming. They start believing they made a mistake. Because if they can't figure out where they stand with you, they will keep trying to get an answer. That's why when someone completely vanishes from social media, people start talking about them more. They don't understand it. They can't process it. So they obsess over it. Silence creates mystery. Mystery creates curiosity. Curiosity creates obsession. You don't need to chase anyone. You just need to make them afraid of losing you. But to truly control the game, you need to know how to make people fear losing you. Silent fear, making them afraid to lose you. Fear of loss is one of the strongest psychological forces. People don't appreciate what they have until it's slipping away. And when they feel like they're losing you, that's when they start doing anything to pull you back in. But here's the secret. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to threaten to leave. You don't need to explain yourself. All you have to do is remove yourself. The fear of uncertainty. People don't fear what they understand. They fear what they can't predict. When someone knows exactly how you'll react, they feel secure. They feel in control. They know what to expect. But when you become unpredictable, when you pull back without explanation, when they can't figure out what you're thinking, it makes them nervous. They start overanalyzing. They start second-guessing themselves. They start thinking, did I push them too far? And once that fear sets in, they start changing their behavior to keep you around. Making your presence feel valuable. Scarcity creates value. The more available you are, the less people appreciate you. The more you control your presence, the more people chase it. This is why the most influential people don't always speak first. This is why the most respected figures don't always respond immediately. This is why the most sought-after individuals are the ones who make others work for their attention. Because when something isn't guaranteed, people start fearing that they might lose it. And that fear, it keeps them coming back. The silent punishment. You don't need to argue. You don't need to fight. You don't need to prove a point. All you need to do is walk away. Silence hurts more than words. When you stop responding, they start wondering. When you stop reacting, they start chasing. When you stop explaining, they start doubting themselves. And when someone is left alone with their own thoughts, that's when the real punishment begins. A master negotiator once controlled an entire conversation without saying a word. His strategy: let the other person talk. Let them fill the silence. Let them make mistakes while he just watched. And when they got desperate for his approval, that's when he made his move. Because in every psychological battle, the person who speaks less wins. Now, let's push this to the next level, using silence to plant thoughts into their mind. Silent influence, making people think it was their idea. The most skilled manipulators don't force their will on others. They don't command. They don't argue. They don't push. Instead, they make you believe it was your idea all along. They let you convince yourself. They let you take ownership of the decision. And by the time you realize what happened, it's already too late. The illusion of choice. People don't like being told what to do. They resist control. They fight against pressure. But if you make them think they're choosing freely, they will walk right into the outcome you wanted, without resistance. The trick? Never give just one option. Instead of saying, do this, say, would you rather do A or B? Both choices lead to the result you want. But now they feel in control, and because they chose it themselves, they will defend the decision as if it was their own. This is how politicians, CEOs, and expert negotiators get compliance without forcing it. They never say, "You have to do this." They say, "Here are your options," and without realizing it, you play right into their hands. The power of suggestion. The best manipulators don't plant ideas directly. They let the idea grow inside your mind naturally. Instead of saying, "You should trust me," they say, "It's interesting how people naturally trust those who stay calm under pressure." Instead of saying, "This is the best solution," they say, "A lot of smart people seem to prefer this approach." They never force an idea on you. They just drop hints, let you process it, and wait for you to arrive at the conclusion yourself. By the time you believe it, you don't even realize where the thought came from. And that's the true power of influence. Letting others speak first. The moment you start talking first, you lose the advantage. Because once you reveal your position, the other person knows how to counter it. But if you stay silent, if you just let them talk, they will reveal everything: their insecurities, their weaknesses, their real motivations. They will try to fill the silence. They will explain too much. And the more they talk, the easier it is to steer the conversation exactly where you want it to go. A master negotiator once faced a tough opponent who refused to budge. Instead of arguing, he simply said, "I understand, but what do you think would be fair?" The other side started talking. They revealed their limits. They exposed their concerns, and within minutes, they had negotiated against themselves, all because he let silence do the work. The final shift. At this point, you're not just silent. You're in control, without them even realizing it. They think they made the choice. They think they hold the power. They think they decided on their own, but in reality, you shaped the outcome from the very beginning. The final execution. The strongest people don't control with force. They don't demand attention. They don't argue for dominance. They make others want to follow them. Because true power isn't about forcing compliance. It's about creating an atmosphere where people willingly adjust to you. You don't have to chase. You don't have to beg for validation. You don't have to prove anything. All you have to do is control the silence. Let's break it down one last time. Silence is not weakness. It's a psychological strategy that forces people to adjust to you. Your presence, your timing, and your nonverbal cues hold more power than any argument ever could. When you create scarcity, you make people chase you because they fear losing what they can't replace. Fear of uncertainty is stronger than force. When people don't know what you're thinking, they overcompensate just to stay in your favor. The best manipulators don't give orders. They create environments where people think they are making their own choices, when in reality, they are walking into a preset outcome. You don't need to control people, you just need to control their perception. And when you master this, you don't just play the game, you design it. Now it's your turn. Have you ever controlled a situation just by staying silent? Share your experience in the comments below.